Hi everyone, the name is Rich. We covered the first three of the graphing in the previous video in part 1, and this is part 2. We're gonna cover the last two. The last two is absolute value function and then the square root function. So we're gonna get started with that. The absolute value function, again, it's another function that starts, the center starts at 0. And so we're gonna put the name the absolute value function. And the shape of it, it looks like a V. And as you can see, I keep making reference of the those points, because later on in graphing it's going to be very important that we keep track of those locations, because those locations is going to help us graph them with a few techniques that we're going to apply to other complicated problems. As you can see, we will start here at the center. It'll be 0, and then we're going to pick a value to the left, -1. We'll pick 2 values to the left and 2 values to the right. You see how that works. 0, -1, -2, 1, and 2. When we put in -2, the absolute value of -2 is going to give us 2. -1 is going to give us 1. 0 is 0. 1 will give us 1. And 2 will give us 2. We're going to graph -2, 1, 2 will give us +2. So that will be up here. -1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, and 2, that will give us 2. As you can see, the graph looks like the shape that we have, a V shape. And for the domain for this function, again, when we talk about domain, we talk about left to right. You can see the graph is going left and it's going right. So, and it doesn't stop. So we're going to be, the domain is going to be -infinity. Again, we say infinity doesn't have a specific value. So when the value is not equal there, we're going to put a parenthesis. And when it's equal, we're going to put a bracket. You will see the difference in the bracket, and then, well, so far you see the parentheses. Now for the range, again, we talk about the domain, we talked about left to right. You can see the note that I put up here. And for the range, we're talking about down and up. As you can see, how low is this graph, and that's where we're going to start. If the graph is actually sits on the location, okay, now we're going to say it's a bracket because it's actually equal there. So we're going to say from 0, and it's going to continue to go up, and we're going to say +infinity and parentheses. Alright, now we're going to go to the next one, which is the square root function. The square root function, what's the name of it? And the square root function looks like this. Like a half parabola. And the half parabola for this particular one, and since this is a different function, and it doesn't start, it starts at 0, but it doesn't have a center at 0. So we're going to start by saying, okay, for a square root function, the square root function, anything that comes in here must be greater or equal to 0, because we can't have a negative square root value. So what we're going to start by saying, we're gonna set restriction with the symbol that we use in math. We're going to say x, whatever's underneath the radical, not what's on the outside. It's always what's underneath the radical. So we're going to say x has to be greater than or equal to 0. Now, if it was an x plus 1, you would say x plus 1 have to be greater than or equal to 0. Doesn't matter what's in there underneath the radical. Whatever's there, you're going to put x plus 2 or x negative x plus 5. You'll put x negative x plus 5 is greater or equal to 0. Then the next thing is to solve it. Since this doesn't have much to solve, so basically this is when you're looking at this on the number line, the value starts at 0 and anything else to the right of 0. So that means we can start putting value on the table, starts at 0, 1. Now, it's good when you're doing the square root function, so you can look and make sure you pick values that you can take square root of. Like 2, if I take the square root of that, it's not going to give me a whole number. So what I want to do, I want to put numbers that makes that produce whole numbers. So 0 produce 0, 1 produce 1. So those numbers are okay. So the next number I will pick is 4. The next number will be 9. If I want to keep going, I will pick 16. And keep going, I will say 36. So for the purpose of just picking a few values that are very close to 0, we're going to say 0, 4, and then 9. Okay? So we don't go too crazy with the numbers. When we plug in 0 in the square root function, we'll get 0. When we put in 1, you get 1, 4, you'll get 2, and 9, you'll get 3. Now we can graph this. This is where exactly it starts. A lot of time, people will start here with the value. I'll go ahead and graph the rest of the value, the points, and I'll show you sometimes what they do. 1 will give you 1. 4 will give you 2. And if I want to go beyond the x value will be way over here, but then it will give you 3. Okay? As you can see. Now, this graph would look like a half parabola, looking like it's going like this. And for the domain, sometimes, just to not forget what I was going to say, sometimes people start, they should start right here and going to the right. They take this line and extend it to the other side, which is not the graph. So you should always just starts where the value, and then goes to the, go down with your values that associate to your y, so you can put the points. And for the domain for this one, we're going to start, you're going to look and say, okay, how far is it to the right? How far is it to the left? Looks like it starts at 0 and it goes to the right. So we're going to say, and it's equal there, so we're going to say from 0 to positive infinity. And for the range, how far down? How far down? The lowest part of the graph will be 0, and it looks like it's going up. The more it goes to the right, it goes up. So then I will say from 0 to positive infinity. And that will be the 5 basic functions. As you can see, I for this one forgot to put the this point that we're really focusing on where exactly this position is. And later on, we're going to do more graphing, and then we're going to use the techniques to apply to these graphs, and then you can see how they develop as far as. But the 5 basic. I hope you guys find this useful, and you guys, if you guys have any questions, leave questions, and I'll get back to those questions. Thank you.